before I tell you this story, please like and subscribe. I also want to know where you're watching from. Are you in Africa, the motherland, or somewhere abroad like London, America, or Germany? Let me know in the comments. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. Adewale was not the strongest hunter in the village. He was not the fastest. He did not have the sharpest aim or the finest traps. What he had was patience and a quiet heart. While other hunters boasted about their kills in the village square, Adewale simply walked into the forest each morning before dawn and returned each evening with enough to feed his family. His wife, Folake, was 8 months pregnant. Her belly was round and heavy. Some nights she could not sleep because the baby kicked so much. Adewale would place his hand on her stomach and whisper prayers. He prayed for a safe delivery. He prayed that both mother and child would survive. In those days, many women died in childbirth. Many babies did not see their first sunrise. So every hunter knew the fear that lived in Adewale's chest. They saw it in his eyes when he looked at his wife. They heard it in his voice when he spoke her name. One morning, Adewale entered the forest as usual. The air was cool and damp. Birds sang from the tops of tall trees. He moved carefully, his footsteps light on the dry leaves. Then he heard it. A sound that made him stop completely. It was a low groan, pained and desperate. He followed the sound through thick bushes until he saw her. An antelope lay on her side beneath a mahogany tree. Her body trembled. Her eyes were wide with fear and pain. Adewale knew immediately what was happening. She was giving birth. He raised his gun slowly. One clean shot, and he would have meat for a week. His finger hovered over the trigger. But then the antelope looked directly at him. Her eyes met his. And in that moment, Adewale saw his wife. He saw Folake lying on a mat, sweating and crying, bringing their child into the world. His hand began to shake. He lowered the gun. Adewale set his gun down on the ground and approached the antelope carefully. She did not run. She could not. Her body was locked in the struggle of labor. He knelt beside her and saw that the baby was stuck. Without thinking, he reached out. His hands, rough from years of hunting, became gentle. He helped guide the baby out, just as the midwives did for human mothers. The antelope cried out once, sharp and piercing. Then it was over. A small antelope, wet and trembling, lay on the forest floor. Adewale used leaves to clean the baby's face. He made sure it was breathing. The mother antelope turned her head and began to lick her child. Adewale watched them for a long moment. Then he stood, picked up his gun, and started to walk away. He had decided he would not kill them today. Behind him, he heard a voice. Wait, he froze. The voice was soft but clear. It came from the antelope. Adewale turned slowly. The antelope was standing now, her baby nursing at her side. She looked at him with those same eyes, but now they were filled with something else. Gratitude. You spared us, she said. Her mouth did not move, but Adewale heard the words inside his mind. He should have been afraid. He should have run. But he was not afraid. I could not kill you, he said aloud. My wife is pregnant too. I thought of her. The antelope bowed her head. Because of your kindness, I will give you a gift. From this day forward, you will never return from a forest empty-handed. When other hunters find nothing, you will find plenty. But you must never speak of this to anyone. If you do, the gift will turn to a curse. Adewale nodded, unable to speak. The antelope and her baby disappeared into the forest. He stood there alone, wondering if he had imagined it all. The very next day, Adewale's life changed. He went into the forest, and within an hour, he had killed 2 large bush rats and a guinea fowl. The day after that, he found a deer. The day after that, 3 rabbits. Every single day, he returned home with a full bag. Other hunters began to notice. They would spend entire days in the forest and come back with nothing. But Adewale always had something. At first, they thought it was luck. Then they thought he had found a secret hunting ground. Some became curious. Others became jealous. Adewale said nothing. He remembered the antelope's warning. He kept the secret locked inside his heart. His wife gave birth to a healthy baby boy 2 weeks later. They named him Tund. Adewale held his son and thanked the spirits silently. He had made the right choice that day in the forest. He was sure of it. Months passed. Adewale became the most successful hunter in the village. He sold his extra meat at the market. He bought new clothes for Folake. He built a bigger room onto their house. Other hunters watched with narrowed eyes. 3 men in particular began to hate him. Their names were Bo, Teo, and Cunnel. They had been the best hunters before Adewale's sudden rise. Now, people barely remembered their names. Women who used to praise them now praised Adewale. Children who used to run to them now ran to Adewale. Their pride was wounded. Their pockets were lighter. And worst of all, they could not understand how Adewale had become so successful. He's using juju, Bode said one night as they sat together drinking palm wine. He must have gone to a witch doctor. Teo agreed. Cunnel shook his head. I don't think it's juju. I think he knows something we don't. A secret place. A secret method. We need to find out. The 3 men made a plan. They would follow Adewale into the forest and discover his secret. Early one morning, before the sun had fully risen, they hid near Adewale's house and waited. When he emerged with his gun in his bag, they followed him at a distance. Adewale walked deep into the forest, deeper than most hunters dared to go. The 3 men struggled to keep up while staying hidden. After nearly an hour, Adewale stopped in a small clearing. He set down his gun and waited. The 3 men crouched behind thick bushes, watching. Then she appeared. The antelope stepped out from between the trees, her baby, now half-grown, beside her. Adewale smiled. Good morning, he said. The antelope bowed her head. Good morning, hunter. Your family is well? Very well, thanks to you, Adewale replied. The 3 men watching could not hear the words, but they could see Adewale talking to an antelope as if it were a person. Bode's eyes widened. Do you see that? He whispered. Teo nodded slowly. He's talking to it, like it's human. Cunnel's hand moved to his gun. This is witchcraft. We were right. The antelope spoke to Adewale for a few more minutes, then turned to leave. As she did, Adewale called after her. The hunting is too easy now. People are starting to ask questions. The antelope paused. Do you want me to stop helping you? No, Adewale said quickly. I just wanted you to know. I'm grateful. Always. The antelope nodded and disappeared into the forest with her child. Adewale picked up his gun and began to hunt. Within minutes, he had spotted a large bush pig. He took aim and fired. The pig fell. The 3 men had seen enough. They retreated quietly, their minds spinning. When they were far enough away, Bode stopped and turned to the others. Did you see what I saw? They all nodded. That antelope is a spirit, Cunnel said, and it's giving him power. That night, the 3 men met again. They were angry, but they were also excited. If Adewale had a spirit helper, maybe they could too. Or maybe they could take his. We should catch that antelope, Teo suggested. If it's giving him success, it can give us success too. Bode shook his head. We can't catch a spirit, but we can kill it. If we kill it, Adewale loses his power. Then we go back to being the best hunters. Cunnel hesitated. What if killing it brings a curse on us? Bode laughed. Curse? The only curse is watching Adewale get rich while we suffer. We kill the antelope. We don't tell anyone. And everything goes back to normal. The other 2 men looked at each other. Slowly, they nodded. It was decided they would kill the antelope. They did not know that some gifts, once broken, cannot be repaired, and some curses, once released, cannot be stopped. The 3 men began to plan carefully. They could not simply walk up and shoot the antelope while Adewale was there. He would stop them. They needed to wait for the right moment. Days passed. They continued to follow Adewale each morning, staying hidden, watching his routine. They noticed that every 3rd day, Adewale met the antelope in the same clearing. They noticed that the antelope always approached from the western side. And they noticed that after speaking with Adewale, the antelope would linger for a few minutes, grazing peacefully before disappearing again. That's our chance, Bode said, when she's grazing, before she runs off. We move fast, we shoot, and it's done. The others agreed. They chose the next meeting day. Early that morning, the three men positioned themselves on the western side of the clearing, hidden in thick brush. They waited. The sun rose higher. Then Adewale appeared just as expected. He set down his gun and waited. The antelope came. Adewale and the antelope spoke as they always did. The three men could not hear the words, but they saw Adewale nod and smile. They saw him bow respectfully. Then the conversation ended. The antelope turned and began to graze on the soft grass in the clearing. Her half-grown child grazed beside her. This was the moment. Bode raised his gun slowly. His hands were steady. He aimed carefully at the antelope's head. Teo and Kunal watched, their hearts pounding. Adewale had walked a short distance away and was examining some tracks on the ground. He did not see what was about to happen. Bode's finger tightened on the trigger. The antelope lifted her head suddenly. She looked directly at the bushes where the three men were hiding. Her eyes met Bode's. For one brief second, he hesitated. Then he fired. The gunshot echoed to the forest like thunder. The antelope collapsed. Her child screamed, a sound no animal should make. And everything changed. Adewale spun around at the sound of the gunshot. He saw the antelope lying on the ground, blood spreading from her head. He saw her child standing over her, trembling, and he saw three men step out from the bushes. Bode, Teo, and Kunal. No, Adewale whispered. Then louder. No. He ran toward the antelope and fell to his knees beside her. She was still breathing, but barely. Her eyes found his. You broke the silence. She said inside his mind, her voice weak. No, Adewale said desperately. I didn't tell them. I kept the secret. I know, the antelope replied, but the gift is broken now, and what was meant to bless will now curse. She looked past him to the three men standing frozen. They do not understand what they have done. The forest will mourn. The land will mourn. And your village will pay the price. Her eyes closed. Her breathing stopped. She was gone. Adewale let out a cry of anguish that made the birds scatter from the trees. The three men stood in stunned silence. They had expected Adewale to be angry. They had not expected this. Adewale turned to them, his face twisted with grief and fury. Do you know what you've done? He shouted. Bode tried to sound confident. We killed your spirit helper. Now you're just like the rest of us. Adewale shook his head. She wasn't just helping me. She was protecting all of us, this whole village. And now, he stopped. The forest had gone completely silent. No birds, no insects, no wind. Even the leaves seemed to hold their breath. Then the ground began to tremble. It started as a gentle vibration, like distant thunder. Then it grew stronger. Trees swayed. The earth cracked. The antelope's child, still standing over his mother's body, let out another piercing cry. And this time, the forest answered. From every direction, animals began to emerge. Antelopes, deer, bush pigs, monkeys, even snakes. They surrounded the clearing, hundreds of them, their eyes fixed on the four men. Run, Adewale whispered. Run. The men ran. They crashed through the forest, branches tearing at their clothes and skin. Behind them, they could hear the thunder of hooves and the screaming of animals. Adewale ran with them, his heart breaking, but his legs moving fast. They did not stop until they burst out of the forest and into the village. People stopped and stared. The four men collapsed, gasping for air. Behind them, at the edge of the forest, the animals had stopped. They stood in a line, watching, waiting. What's happening? Someone asked. Adewale couldn't answer. He was bent over, hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. Bode, Teo, and Kunal said nothing. They were too afraid. Then, as the sun reached its highest point, the animals turned and disappeared back into the forest. The villagers whispered nervously. Something was wrong. They could feel it. That night, the first sign of the curse appeared. Every well in the village ran dry. People dug deeper, but found only dust. The river that ran past the village slowed to a trickle, then stopped completely. By the third day, panic had set in. Without water, The village could not survive. People sent their children to neighboring villages to beg for water, but the neighboring villages had their own problems. Their crops were failing. Their animals were dying. No one would help. The elders called a meeting in the village square. Everyone gathered, tired and thirsty and afraid. The chief stood before them, his face grave. Something has angered the spirits, he announced. We must find out what. The villagers looked at each other nervously. No one wanted to speak first. Then an old woman pointed at Adewale. He's the one. Ever since he became the best hunter, strange things have been happening. All eyes turned to Adewale. He stood slowly, his throat dry. It's not me, he said. It's them. He pointed at Bode, Teo, and Cunnel. They killed a sacred antelope in the forest. A spirit guardian. The three men's faces went pale. The chief's eyes narrowed. Is this true? The men stayed silent. The chief's voice hardened. I asked a question. Is this true? Bode finally spoke, his voice defensive. We killed an antelope. That's all. How were we supposed to know it was sacred? Adewale stepped forward. I'll tell you how. Because I warned you all never to follow me. Because you were jealous, and you let that jealousy poison your judgment. Teo pointed at Adewale angrily. You were talking to it like a person. That's witchcraft. We were trying to protect the village from your evil. Adewale's laugh was bitter. Protect? You've doomed us all. The antelope was protecting this village. She made sure we had food, water, and safety. Now she's dead, and her death has brought this curse. The villagers began to murmur. Some looked at the three men with anger. Others looked at Adewale with suspicion. The chief raised his hand for silence. Tomorrow, he said, I will consult the oracle. We will learn what must be done to lift this curse. Everyone go home. Pray to your ancestors, and hope they show us mercy. That night, Adewale could not sleep. He lay beside Folake, who held baby Tun close. What will happen to us? She whispered. He had no answer. Outside, the village was dark and silent. No one had water to waste on cooking or washing. People lay in their homes, lips cracked, throats burning. Children cried. Elders prayed. In another part of the village, Bode, Teo, and Cunnel sat together. They should have felt guilty. Instead, they felt angry. This is Adewale's fault, Bode muttered. He's the one who made a deal with the spirit. We were just hunting. Cunnel shook his head. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't have killed it. Teo snapped at him. It's too late for regrets. What's done is done. We stick together. We blame Adewale. The others nodded. But doubt had begun to grow in their hearts. They had seen the animals gather at the forest edge. They had felt the earth shake. They knew, deep down, that they had crossed a line they could never uncross. The next morning, the chief went to see the oracle. The oracle was an ancient woman who lived alone at the edge of the village. People said she could speak to spirits and see the future. The chief entered her small hut and sat before her. She did not ask why he had come. She already knew. The land is angry, she said before he could speak. A sacred life was taken. A promise was broken. The balance is destroyed. The chief bowed his head. What must we do to restore it? The oracle closed her eyes and was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was heavy with sorrow. The antelope's child still lives. It must be found and brought before the village. An offering must be made. A life for a life. The chief's stomach turned. You mean we must sacrifice the young antelope? No, the oracle said. A human life, one of the three men who killed a mother, must give himself willingly to the forest. Only then will the curse be lifted. The chief returned to the village and called another meeting. This time, his face was even graver than before. The villagers gathered, their eyes hollow from thirst and fear. The chief explained what the oracle had said. A life for a life. One of the three men must sacrifice himself. The crowd erupted. Some shouted in agreement. Others wept. Bode, Teo, and Cunnel stood frozen. No, Bode said, his voice shaking. That's not fair. We didn't know. The chief's voice was cold. Ignorance does not erase consequence. You killed a sacred guardian. Now one of you must pay the price, or we all die. The three men looked at each other. None of them wanted to die. None of them wanted to be the one. Teo spoke desperately. Why should it be us? Adewale was the one dealing with spirits. He's the one who brought this curse. The villagers began to argue among themselves. Some sided with the three men. Others defended Adewale. The village was tearing itself apart. Adewale stood and raised his voice above the chaos. Stop! Everyone fell silent. He looked around at his neighbors, his friends, his family. I will go, he said quietly. No, Folake cried out, clutching Tun to her chest. Adewale turned to her, his eyes gentle. If I don't, we all die. Our son dies. I can't let that happen. The chief frowned. The oracle said one of the three men who killed the antelope must go. You tried to stop them. This sacrifice is not yours to make. Adewale shook his head. The antelope was my responsibility. I should have protected her better. I should have warned the village about the danger. This curse exists because I failed. So I will end it. Bo, Teo, and Cunnel said nothing. Relief washed over their faces, and shame followed immediately after. The villagers looked at Adewale with new eyes, some with respect, some with pity. The chief bowed his head. If this is your choice, we will honor it. Tomorrow at dawn. That night, Adewale held his wife and son close. Folake wept until she had no tears left. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Yes, I do, he replied softly. Our son deserves to grow up in a village with water and food. He deserves a future. He kissed Tun's forehead. The baby slept peacefully, unaware that his father was saying goodbye. Before dawn, Adewale rose and dressed in white, as was accustomed for sacrifices. He walked through the silent village toward the forest. People came out of their homes to watch him pass. Some bowed. Others looked away in shame. When he reached the edge of the forest, the chief and the elders were waiting. They had found the young antelope. It stood before them, calm and still, as if it had been waiting too. Adewale approached it slowly. I'm sorry, he said. I should have saved your mother. The young antelope looked at him with eyes too wise for its age. Then it turned and walked into the forest. Adewale followed. They walked deep into the forest, to the same clearing where everything had begun. The young antelope stopped and turned to face Adewale. He knelt before it. I am ready, he said. The antelope spoke, its voice in his mind just like its mother's had been. You spared my mother when you could have killed her. You showed mercy when others would have shown greed. And now you offer your life when others would have run. Adewale bowed his head. I failed to protect her. I must pay the price. The antelope stepped closer. My mother's gift to you was abundance. My gift to you is choice. You can die here, and the curse will be lifted. Or you can live. But 3 others must take your place. Adewale's eyes widened. The 3 men who killed your mother. The antelope nodded. They are the ones who truly owe the debt. But they hide behind your sacrifice. What is your choice? Adewale thought of Folake. He thought of Tund. He thought of the life he would never see his son live. Adewale stood slowly, his decision made. He looked the young antelope in the eyes. I cannot ask others to pay a debt I feel is mine. Even those 3 men. They were wrong, but I will not trade their lives for mine. If my death ends the suffering, then I accept it. The young antelope stared at him for a long moment. Then something extraordinary happened. The air around them began to shimmer, and the mother antelope appeared, her form glowing like moonlight. She was a spirit now, no longer bound to flesh. She looked at Adewale with profound sadness and profound love. You have the rarest heart, she said. Mercy, even for those who deserve none. I gave you a gift once. Now I give you another. She turned to her child. Release him. The young antelope bowed its head. The mother antelope looked back at Adewale. Return to your village. The curse is lifted. But tell them this. The 3 men must leave and never return. If they stay, the curse will return tenfold. Adewale walked out of the forest as the sun rose. The villagers were waiting, expecting to mourn him. When they saw him alive, they gasped. Some fell to their knees. Others wept with joy. The chief stepped forward, confusion on his face. The spirits have shown mercy, Adewale announced. The curse is lifted, but there is a condition. He pointed at Bo, Teo, and Cunnel. They must leave this village and never return. If they stay, the curse will come back worse than before. The three men's faces went white. The villagers immediately turned on them with anger. "Leave!" someone shouted. "Get out!" Others joined in. The three men tried to protest, but the crowd grew hostile. By midday, they had gathered their few belongings and left the village in shame. As they disappeared down the road, the river began to flow again. The wells filled with fresh, clean water. The land softened and became fertile once more. The village had been saved. Years passed. The village prospered once more. Adewale continued to hunt, but never with the same supernatural success he'd once had. He was content with that. He had his wife, his son, and his life. That was enough. He often returned to the clearing in the forest. Sometimes he would see the young antelope, now fully grown, watching him from a distance. They never spoke again, but there was understanding between them. The village never forgot what had happened. The elders made sure the story was told to every generation. They taught their children that greed and jealousy bring ruin, that mercy is the greatest strength, and that some gifts, once broken, can never be repaired the same way. Adewale grew old surrounded by love. On his final day, as he lay in bed with Folake, holding his hand and Tun, now a man, sitting beside him, he smiled. He had lived a good life. He had made the right choice that day in the forest, both times. And when he closed his eyes for the last time, he dreamed of an antelope and her child running free beneath endless trees. Thank you so much for watching. What did you learn from this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We remain Folktale with Amy, bringing you the most exciting African folktales for generations to come.